Welcome to a video. It's a video that's about making beer. Well, the whole channel is about making beer. Some wine too. This video is about making a beer in a pumpkin. You heard that right. I'm actually doing it. Not only am I doing it, I've done it before. About 2 years ago, I did this. And it turned out pretty good actually. If I have a bottle that I can find, I will open one up from that batch. This is before I was doing YouTube videos, but that is on my blog and I will post it in the description below. I'm basically duplicating the same thing. I'm also going to make this video simplified for those who want beer brewers who just want to go, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'll see if I can help you out in that regard. Let's go through what you'll need first. Obviously, the first thing is a pumpkin. Last time I got a pumpkin bigger than this, I think it was like this tall, and I didn't need quite that big of a pumpkin. I'm going to try a smaller one, and hopefully everything fits inside if that needs to be done. The next thing you'll need is a kit to carve this out. Now, you don't have to have one of these. Obviously, you can use just a knife and a spoon, but handy. Next thing you'll need, a simple pot. 2-gallon pot will do. This is a 5-gallon pot, but anything, household pot will be just fine. You will need a burner too. You don't have to have something this behemoth, this massive. You can use your stove as well. But I have one of these connected to a propane tank. Next, you'll need a jug, a 1-gallon jug. It's filled with a sanitizing solution at the moment, but there it is. Next, you'll need a strainer and a funnel. So after you're done, you can strain it into the 1-gallon jug. I'm also going to use this for the early portion of this, which we'll get to in a second. So I might have forgot a few things that you'll need along the way, but the most important thing that I did actually just leave out is water. I have 2.5 gallons here of water. You can use your tap water if you live in an area that has soft water, and if it tastes like chlorine, don't use it. That's the only thing you really don't want is chlorine. If you have an RV filter, a charcoal filter, I have one also. You can use that as well, hook up to a faucet. But I use distilled water. Now, if you're using distilled water and you're not a home brewer, I suggest just doing a little bit of salt in there. If you have calcium chloride, throw maybe like a gram or two into it. So what I need to do first is heat 1.5 gallons of water and get it to a temperature of about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Next thing you will need to do is get grain. I got some from my homebrew store. If you are not a home brewer, the homebrew shops are usually close by. You just get 2 pounds of grain. Some of them even have mills there. You just ask the homebrew store owner, you're like, hey, how do I do this? And they go, here's how you mill your grain. They can do it for you. But you need a certain kind of grain that has been germinated and allowed some of the sugars to be accessed essentially. So then the hot water that's going to be put into it later, enzymes in this are activated at that certain temperature and then break down those longer starches into smaller sugar chains so the yeast can make it into beer later. I did get some extra grains to make this a little darker. I got some roasted grains as well. I got a drill to mill this up quickly. I got this to a temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. It is time. Grain goes first. Oh boy. I hope it's a big enough pumpkin. It's gonna be close. Ideally, you might put the water in first and do it. I thought I'd try because it's a pumpkin to put the grain in first and kind of stir it in. I don't think it's really different. Just a maker, really. Make sure everything's stirred in really good. Okay, a little more water. All right, I couldn't quite get all the water in there. I got almost all of it though. It's fine, not a big deal. So let's see what the temperature's at. It might be a little off because I didn't quite have all my water in there. Pretty good. I'm at 151 degrees. That's perfect. You want to stir it in really, really good. Get everything really mixed in. You don't want this to be all clumpy. What happened last time I did this, I thought the meat of the pumpkin would hold it and insulate it. So I need to hold this for a good hour while the enzymes do their thing and break up those longer starches into sugars. But I lost a lot of heat last time. Within like 10-15 minutes, the temperature inside was at like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and within a half an hour is like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it just isn't thick enough and porous or something, and it just sucked out all the heat. So this time I'm going to try and put it into an oven. The lowest my oven goes is 170 degrees Fahrenheit. So I turned it on just now, or about 5 minutes ago, right before I started this. I'm gonna put it in the oven, and hopefully I can hold it at the correct temperature at 150 degrees Fahrenheit for a good hour. Let's do it. See, the temp held. What I end up doing is I actually turned off the heat around half an hour in, and it was pretty hot the rest of the way. So hopefully it held. It's at 130 degrees Fahrenheit, a little under. So I probably should have kept it on the whole time. Maybe at 170 it wouldn't have infiltrated as much inside. But 130 is not terrible for an hour. It's still within the range. The enzymes start working around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, ballparking. They stop around 170 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a pretty big window there when you're working with these enzymes to break down these sugars. So what I'm going to do now is transfer this into a pot. So along with this, I have this extra strainer I'll put in there just to really help filter it out. Now there's still a lot of sugars I can still get out of this, so I'm going to use my leftover water from before. It's still pretty warm. Just kind of filter over the top of it, like so. Nice and easy, not too fast. Yeah, looking at it right now, I'm exactly a gallon, and there's still some of this running off. All right, I'm going to put this over here for now. I'm going to stir this around a little bit and take a gravity reading, which for those people who just found this channel and are like, what's this guy doing? That's a sugar reading. This is called a refractometer, and on the inside there's numbers that read how much sugars I got. What you do is you put a couple drops on this little thing, close it, and look through the lens here, and the light refracts in there and tells you the density or the sugars in it. Pure water, for example, would be like it would read at 1.000. Most beers on a complete average, you're starting at 1.050. That yields about 4.5, maybe 5% alcohol, depending on how much the sugar eats. I'm at 1.045. I was going for an end result of 1.050. I'm a little high on exactly where I want to be. Now this is showing exactly a gallon I have. I want to be closer to like 0.9 gallons because the jugs, I need a little bit of a space at the top. I'm going to boil this for about 5 minutes or so. It's also good to do that to pasteurize as well, because some wild stuff can get in here, can contaminate the beer. You can, at that time, if you want, add some hops. I do have some. I'll throw a little bit in there, and just enough to give it a little bit of a thing. You can also add some herbs to this. I have done that in the past. Similarly, when I did a beer only from ingredients from the grocery store, and in that I put a bay leaf into it. And you can probably even put a little coriander in there. Coriander has similar oils that hops do. Same with the bay leaf. So let's do it. Let's get it going. Let's get the pot boiling. I got the boil going. I got some hops here. I'm gonna boil it for 5 minutes, maybe here longer, like 6-7 minutes, and turn it off. Cool it down. What you can do at that point in time is put it into an ice bath, and that will cool it down pretty quickly, within a half hour or so. I have something that goes a little quicker than that, and what it does is you put it in this wort here, and you run. I run ice water through this with a pump, and it just sucks out all the heat pretty quickly. Put it in a little bit before I turn off my boil, because it sanitizes it. Time's up for this guy. I got a bag of ice. I'm going to put it into some water on the ground, and then put this next to it and then run the pump through it. I'll show you how that works. For those who haven't seen it or haven't been to my channel before, it's pretty cool. What's happening here is the ice water is now running through my copper chiller. I leave it out at first to get the initial heat away from it, out quickly. And then once the water's at the very top of the pump, I then put it back in and put more ice in, and it recirculates the cold water through the tubing. And I'm at that step now, putting it back in, put more ice in. Usually a whole bag of ice does it. 1.050 exactly. Beautiful. You do need to sanitize from here on out, and you can do that by a couple methods. If you are not a home brewer, you don't know what to do, I have used whiskey with success to sanitize with. So like the jug I'm fermenting in, you can get a swirl with whiskey, preferably vodka actually, because it's more neutral for what we're doing today. I know you can do a 10% solution of bleach with water. I'll put that exact amount right here underneath on what's safe to use. Let it soak for about 20 minutes. Some people even rinse it after they let all their stuff soak in that solution. And I have a homebrew one called Star San. You have to dilute it down, but it's the easiest one for homebrewers to use. This is almost cooled down now. It's been about 10 minutes. My wort is now ready to transfer over into our 1 gallon jug. So let's do it. Got my strainer back, the funnel, the 1 gallon jug, and our wort. Got the yeast. I'll explain the yeast variances in a second once I transfer this over. Have my sanitizing proper stuff for homebrewing. Give it a swirl. Sanitize this too. Give it a spray. And there it is. That is almost exactly a gallon, 0.9. And ready to put some yeast into it. Now, I have bought yeast. A company called White Labs. They sell yeast for brewers. I have used baker's yeast before, and it turned out okay. Now, I've heard of people usually sometimes can have issues with baker's yeast, but if you have the ability to buy yeast, it's better. Proper yeast. This is a number on this is 0 is WLP for White Labs, 001. Very classic ale strain that they have. I have some left over from my last batch. Yeast does need oxygen to grow, so you need to get it for, just give it like a 30, 45 second shake, swirl, and then you're done after that. Now, if you live in an environment where you can't keep this contained around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I would suggest that you do a water bath and you just basically fill a pot up or a cooler up and put ice bottles in there at the beginning of each day. And then when you come home, swap them out, put new fresh frozen water bottles in there. That usually holds it fairly good. You might only need one, especially for 1 gallon batch. That should hold it around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a very common way early homebrewers start. I have temp controlled chest freezers, so I don't have to worry about that. I can actually set it to the exact degree I want. I'm gonna ferment this particular one at 66 degrees Fahrenheit. I have with these. This is called an airlock, and basically, you put this little rubber cap on here, like so, and then you put one of these on here, like so. Fill this part here with water up to there, and it holds the oxygen in while it can also bubble out all the CO2 as it eats. If you don't have that, you can just throw some tinfoil over the top and let it ferment for about 4 or 5 days. Once it's done fermenting, I would say give it a full week. Don't go too much more past 5 or 6 days, but just bottle right from there. So this is done. Let it ferment for about 5 to 6 days and do the next steps, and that'll be a part 2. And we'll see what flavor we get out of it and see how it tastes when it's all said and done. However, the video's not over yet. I did find one of the pumpkin beers the first time I tried this, which was 2 years ago. So let's go crack one open and see how it holds up. So this, I looked it up, was brewed on 10/29/2016. Almost exactly 2 years. A little lighter, a little less hoppy. So when I did do this, I actually got some pumpkin flavor out of it, oddly. Usually for pumpkin beer, a lot of commercial brewers won't do it. They won't add actual pumpkin to it. What they'll do is add spices to replicate a pumpkin spice beer. So all those times you have pumpkin beer, if you ever tried one, rarely is there actual pumpkin in it. Some commercial brewers will put roast some pumpkin and put it in their mash, like how we did, but ours was in a pumpkin. So ours is technically more authentic. So the smell is fine. A little cardboardy maybe, which is a sign of oxidation. But it's pretty clean smelling. I'm not getting any pumpkin. I mean, maybe a tiny bit. But I had to someone would have to tell me this was in a pumpkin for me to think that. I know it wasn't a pumpkin. It tastes pretty good actually. I'm not getting pumpkin, But the flavor is pretty good. Malty, a little astringent, a little metallic, but pretty well rounded. Drinkable. You know, for being 2 years old and sitting in the heat the whole time through our 100-degree summers here in Los Angeles area, could be worse. So I'm excited to see how my new pumpkin batch is going to turn out. I like that I went a little darker. It's almost like a pumpkin stout almost. And yeah, stay tuned for part 2 of that. This is one of the weirdest things I've done in a while, and I do a lot of weird stuff on this channel. So keep getting weird. If you've never brewed before, get weird and start brewing. It's really fun. And start with brewing in a pumpkin. Why not?